They said it wouldn't be ready until 2028. They said the Philippines was already too deep with Sweden's Gripen. And yet, here we are. A new report from Korean defense analysts claims that the KF-21 Boramae Block 2, South Korea's pride and ambition, could be ready for export by 2026. That's 2 years earlier than anyone expected. And if that's true, the Philippines may have just found its most realistic path to a next-generation multirole fighter. Today, we break down the facts, the strategy, and what this means for the West Philippine Sea. Stay with us until the end as we break down details. Before we continue our discussion, don't forget to like button, subscribe, and the notification bell button from Pinoy Guard. Welcome back to Pinoy Guard. At the Seoul International Aerospace and Defense Exhibition, the Philippine delegation quietly entered the Korea Aerospace Industries pavilion. No big announcements, no flashy ceremony. Just closed-door meetings, long discussions, and subtle smiles. What did they talk about? According to insiders, it wasn't just the FA-50, it was the KF-21 Boramae itself. Not the prototype, not the Block 1, but the Block 2, the true strike-capable variant. Max Defense Philippines later confirmed the talks weren't just exploratory. They involved negotiations, the kind that hints something real is moving behind the curtain. Let's rewind. For months, the Department of National Defense, D&D, has been juggling one of its most critical modernization goals, the Multirole Fighter Acquisition Project, part of Rehorizon 3, the roadmap to transform the Philippine Air Force into a regional power. For contenders remain in the race. The Saab Gripen E/F, the Lockheed Martin F-16 Block 7072 Viper, the Eurofighter Typhoon Tranche 5, and the KF-21 Boramae. At first glance, the Gripen seemed the clear favorite. Negotiations were deeper, Swedish financing was flexible, and logistics were simpler. But behind the scenes, the situation changed. Brazil's Gripen deliveries delayed. Sweden's domestic orders piling up. Thailand and Ukraine competing for the same production line. Even Colombia and Peru are trying to get their slots in. Across the Atlantic, Lockheed Martin is struggling too. The F-16 Viper production queue stretches years ahead. Taiwan just received its first aircraft after an agonizing wait. And the Eurofighter Consortium? Busy with massive orders from Germany, Spain, Turkey, and the Middle East. That means for Manila, if it wants new fighters fast, there's only one country left that can deliver early. South Korea. The KF-21 Boramae isn't just another fighter, it's South Korea's answer to the question. Can a nation build its own fifth-generation class jet without US or European dependency? Born from decades of ambition and backed by billions in R&D, the Boramae blends stealth-shaped design, advanced sensors, and a native weapons ecosystem. But what changed recently shocked many analysts. A new strategy called serial integration has accelerated the Block 2 program, the version that transforms the Boramae from a pure air defense fighter into a true multirole platform. Originally, Block 2 was expected to be export-ready by 2028. Now, according to Korean defense insiders, KI could offer the Block 2 by 2026, 2 years earlier than expected. And this small detail changes everything. Traditionally, fighter jet development happens in stages. Prototype, test, correction, integration, serial production. Each stage can take years. But KI's engineers flipped the script. Instead of waiting for one stage to finish, they began parallel integration, working on weapons, avionics, and flight control software simultaneously under one unified system. This is the serial integration strategy, a method that allows faster maturity, earlier certification, and continuous production without waiting for each test cycle to end. It's risky, it's ambitious, but it's working. As one Korean analyst put it, KI learned from the FA-50's production experience. Export is not an afterthought, it is part of the development. In short, South Korea isn't just building a fighter. It's building a global export system, ready to deliver to countries like the Philippines before others even roll out their jets. If KI's timeline holds, the Philippines could become one of the first foreign operators of the KF-21 Boramae Block 2 as early as 2026 to 2027. Imagine this scenario. By the time other countries are still waiting for their Gripens or F-16s, the Philippine Air Force could already be training on its first fifth-generation class fighter. And here's where it gets more interesting. South Korea's Block 1 orders for its own Air Force are already secured and under production. Once those units are completed in the next few years, KI will transition its assembly lines to Block 2, leaving room for export slots. If Manila decides fast enough, it could reserve production slots ahead of other buyers. And that, according to several analysts, might be exactly what the D&D is exploring right now. The Philippines and South Korea already share deep defense ties. The FA-50 fleet proved reliable and easy to maintain. The Philippine Navy's corvettes are being built by Hyundai Heavy Industries. Hanwha Systems is delivering the combat management system for the upcoming offshore patrol vessels. This long-term defense partnership gives South Korea an advantage. Trust, logistics familiarity, and financing options tailored for allies. Moreover, South Korea has publicly pledged to expand defense exports to ASEAN partners, offering credit facilities and training programs, precisely the kind of support the Philippines needs to accelerate its modernization without overstraining its defense budget. But here's the complication. The D&D has always said the MRF acquisition project must be done in one go. A full package of 40 fighters, plus AWNC aircraft and aerial tankers. Can South Korea handle that? Maybe not all 40 at once, but analysts believe KI can scale faster than Saab or Lockheed Martin. Why? Because the KF-21 production line in Seoul has been designed with digital smart factory automation capable of adjusting build cycles based on export demand. It's one of the most flexible assembly systems in Asia. So while Saab or Lockheed might take 6 to 8 years to deliver 40 jets, KI could potentially do it in 3 to 4 years, depending on financing and configuration. That's the kind of efficiency that gets the D&D's attention. Korean defense analysts believe that the Philippines' renewed interest isn't just curiosity, it's strategic positioning. They note that the Philippines is watching the KF-21 Block II's accelerated schedule. If the export window opens by 2026, Manila wants to be among the first in line. Another expert added, KI's strength isn't just the jet, it's the speed of delivery, lower queue time, and willingness to integrate Philippine-specific systems. Even global data analysts in the West echo this view, saying, South Korea's approval of KF-21 production positions it to compete directly with Western jets and open new export opportunities to allied nations. In other words, South Korea is ready to play big, and the Philippines might be its first Southeast Asian partner in this next-generation project. But there's more to it than hardware. If the Philippines chooses the KF-21, it sends a clear signal that Manila is willing to diversify its defense partners beyond traditional Western suppliers. This is significant. At a time when the South China Sea remains tense and regional militaries are modernizing rapidly, the Philippines' choice of fighter jet becomes more than a procurement decision. It's a geopolitical statement. Choosing the Gripen or F-16 means staying within Western systems. Choosing the KF-21 means aligning more closely with an emerging Asian defense power, South Korea, whose defense diplomacy in ASEAN has grown exponentially. It also aligns with the self-reliant defense posture the D&D has been promoting. Learning from allies who already transitioned from importer to manufacturer. Still, there are risks. The KF-21 uses American GEF-414 engines, meaning U.S. export approval is mandatory for any foreign sale. That could be a hurdle, depending on Washington's geopolitical stance. And the Philippines must also weigh cost and logistics. The KF-21 isn't cheap. A full squadron could cost around 60 to 70 billion peso, or roughly US $1.2 billion, depending on configuration. However, if Seoul offers soft financing similar to previous deals, the cost-to-capability ratio could still beat Western options. In the coming months, the D&D is expected to submit updated evaluations of the four contenders. But whispers suggest that the KF-21 has climbed up the list from an outsider to a potential dark horse. If KI offers early delivery, industrial participation, and joint training, the same formula that made the FA-50 program successful, then it's no longer just a question of price. It becomes a question of vision. Will the Philippines gamble on a bold, young fighter, or stay with proven but delayed Western jets? The answer might define the Philippine Air Force's next 20 years. A leap toward the future with the KF-21 Boramae Block II could mean earlier air dominance, stronger deterrence, and a new level of regional respect. But as with all things in defense, timing is everything. And if the Koreans are right, if serial integration truly pushes the KF-21 export window to 2026, then the clock has already started ticking. Because while others are waiting in line, the Philippines might just be standing next to the fastest-moving fighter program in Asia.